Now, I think it's fair to say that game week 29 has literally been the worst game week of my season so far. I've scored just 29 points and I'm down to 36k overall. But we've got an international break, I've got a load of chips in hand, and here are my transfer plans for game week 30. So I think I actually under-egged how bad things could be. At the time that I'm recording this video, you can all laugh at me or say I got lucky or whatever, depending on the result. Man United have just kicked off against Leicester. So Bruno Fernandes, who you can see here isn't in my team, could destroy my hopes even more. But regardless of that, my team has played, and here's how I did. Like I said, 29 points, 3 returns from my whole team. So a clean sheet for Robinson, a clean sheet for Gabriel, who obviously got booked as well against Chelsea, and then an assist from Bumo. The rest of my team scoring either 2 or 1 points. Obviously, Chris Wood got 4 as my captain, but that's still a blank, right? Cole Palmer on my bench, who obviously had that little niggle that we knew nothing about. Yeah, pretty disappointing week overall. And I would say, you know, if you imagine Cole Palmer in that 11 as apart from Greaves, right? Going into the game week, I was pretty confident because I think on paper that's a good team. You know, Robinson's been pretty decent, as has Gabriel, who have obviously scored points for me, so we can kind of discount those. Sales and Aina, who had Ipswich. Got to think, you know, Forest could have kept a clean sheet in that game going into it at least. That obviously didn't come to fruition. And there was a bit of, well, variance there between, or swing, sorry, should I say, between Aina and Milenkovic. You know, Milenkovic, I think, came away with 11 points. Aina with a 1-pointer. Guardiola, obviously Man City conceding 2 goals against Brighton. I should have been a bit wiser there, really, about the Man City defence, expecting them to concede. But I did think Guardiola could do something from an attacking perspective. Obviously, that didn't happen. Semenyo and Kluivert both blanking. Semenyo now on 9 yellow cards for the season in the Premier League. So one more yellow card and he's out for 2 games, I believe. Yeah, he's been a consistent blanking like the last 5 or 6 game weeks for me. Been really disappointing. Kluivert, who I transferred in alongside Guardiola, a blank for him as well. He actually got subbed off early in that game, I believe. An assist for Brian Mbumo, setting up Wissa. And I didn't expect Brentford to beat Brighton, to be honest. I was quite happy to have Mbumo in my team, but I expected Bournemouth to win the game, so hence why I've got triple Bournemouth attack here, but it just didn't happen. Evan Nilsson, who I brought in, you know, I expected him to start over Dango. Bit wasteful him. 2 points for him. I think he put up over 0.5 XGI. So yeah, he could have had something in that game. And then obviously a disappointing blank for Chris Wood. I was of 2 minds really whether to move on Erling Haaland so I could captain him and then have him against Leicester. I decided not to, and probably didn't pay off for game week 29. But yeah, here we are. And like I said, Cole Palmer on my bench. I didn't sell Salah or Isak because I just have so much value gained in them that selling them would just do me in financially. So yeah, I couldn't really do that. So like I said, we've still got Bruno Fernandes to play. You know, he could kill me even more in terms of rank. But here's where we are. 29 points, 36k overall. Looking ahead to game week 30, though, I think my team looks all right. I've got to say, I think my team looks all right. I've got Sels and Aina, double up of Forest defence. Another go for them against Man United. You know, well, again, they're playing against Leicester right now, but I still think, you know, on their day, Forest are strong defensively, particularly at home. And Man United, at times this season, have been really toothless. So I do think Forest could potentially get a clean sheet in that game. So I'm quite happy to have the 2 of them. Guardiola against Leicester, I mean, that's a good fixture. I'm quite happy with that. Gabriel against Fulham, another good fixture. Quite happy with that. We could also see Saka back for Arsenal after the international break, which I think will really serve to help Gabriel because they've been missing Saka's corners, really. Yeah, that's where Gabriel's goal threat has disappeared, in my opinion. Salah's obviously back against Everton. He'll be my captain, like no question about that. I don't have Haaland, who would be the sort of captaincy, I guess, rival with Haaland playing Leicester. But even then, I still think Salah's by far and away the best captain. Palmer with Tottenham. Hopefully he makes a full recovery from that injury. I'd imagine now he gets left out of that England squad and gets a week and a bit off. Hopefully recover from whatever injury he's got. Tottenham's obviously a good fixture, followed by Brentford as well. We'll talk about my chip strategy in a second. But yeah, I've got Tottenham for Palmer. Kluivert with Ipswich at home. Mbumo, Newcastle away, relatively tough fixture. I guess for me it's between him and Semenyo as to who I bench. But just given how disappointing Semenyo's been recently, I'm going to bench Semenyo, I think. And that probably, that decision will probably mean Semenyo scores a hat-trick now against Ipswich. But I think that's the right call. Despite what the expected points total says, to bench Semenyo and start both Evan Nilsson and Mbeumo. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to start Evan Nilsson against Ipswich. Isak comes back in, who's obviously got Brentford. Yeah, I won't be getting rid of him on my wildcard either, which I'll talk about what I'm going to do with that in a second. And then Chris Wood as well against Man United. So despite a difficult game week in game week 29, where I literally have scored just 29 points with this team, I think Palmer will make a recovery, come straight back into my 11. And I'm in good shape here for game week. I think I'm in good shape for game week 30. And I've got one free transfer and 1.8 million in the bank. So full transparency, I don't actually think I'm going to make a transfer in game week 30. I just think my team's absolutely fine. And my chip strategy is to play my wild card in game week 31. Once we know what the doubles and blanks look like from the cup results, we'll know that before the game week 31 deadline. So I can't do that ahead of game week 30, but I can ahead of game week 31. So all of my transfer decisions up to this point have been made with kind of game week 29 and 30 in mind, and then I can sort of wipe the slate clean and go again for 31 onwards. Based on these fixtures, there are a couple of players, well, a few players that I think are worth talking about. First up, we've got Crystal Palace assets, right? They've got a confirmed double game week in game week 32 and a possible double game week in game week 33. And I think for me, there are 4 potential Crystal Palace players that I could go for. A bit more defensively up first, we've got Dean Henderson and Munoz. I genuinely think Dean Henderson is possibly the best goalkeeper in the game for the next sort of 4 or 5 game weeks. You know, he's got Southampton and Brighton in 30 and 31, and then potentially two consecutive double game weeks. And I think in all of those game weeks, you know, there's potential for points there. One thing I would say actually is the double game weeks defensively are not all that amazing for Crystal Palace, to be fair. I think Munoz is great just with his attacking threat, but you probably expect most of the games that they double to concede. I'll just go back again. So the doubles for Palace could be Man City, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Arsenal. They could potentially concede, to be fair, in all of those games. But what I like about Dean Henderson, and I said this on my Buy and Avoid video, I said it on plenty of videos at the beginning of the season as well, much to people's annoyance. The best goalkeepers in FPL are ones that keep like an average-ish amount of clean sheets, but also just make consistent saves. And Dean Henderson ticks those boxes. He's got 2.82 saves per 90, so he's basically averaging saves points every time he plays. And he's kept, well, 1 clean sheet in sort of every 3 games, which I think is perfectly decent. So yeah, I do think he could be a good option. Munoz, I kind of guess it goes without saying, really. I think he's almost essential, to be honest, in the game, or as close as you can get. You know, 5 million, the attacking threat, what's that? 17 attacking returns, 17 total returns if you add up goals, assists and clean sheets in 27 appearances. And obviously the same fixtures as Henderson. Yeah, I think he's looking like a really good option. And I think at 5 million for that attacking upside, that defensive quality, those fixtures, I think Munoz is as close as you can get to essential. It's just with my team at the moment, I think it looks great. Like I don't need to do anything for game week 30. These are kind of my thoughts ahead of time for 31 as to who I want to bring in on my wildcard. So in addition to Henderson and Munoz, I think Ismail Assar and Mateta are also decent options to consider. I would say Mateta's probably by far and away the single best Crystal Palace asset in the game. And you look at the fixtures from an attacking perspective. We'll just go back to the fixtures. Sorry guys, I'm mucking up my screens here. We'll just go back to the fixtures. From an attacking perspective, I think there's potentially goals in all of them. Like Man City, Newcastle. Man City obviously completely dropped off the ball this season. Newcastle looking a bit sus recently. I mean, we'll see how they get on in the cup final, but I don't think they've been their defensive. You know, at St James's Park in seasons gone by, they have been like juggernauts, I would say, defensively, but that's kind of dropped off a little bit this season. And then Bournemouth and Arsenal, I think there's a chance Mateta and Sarr could do something in all of those games. So I guess for me, it's a question of exactly who from Crystal Palace I would go for. And there's also Eze as well. I haven't included Eze on this list because I just don't trust his injury record. And I think his minutes, we could potentially see his minutes managed for, you know, the quick consecutive fixtures we'll see in those doubles. So yeah, for me, it's a decision on Crystal Palace assets to bring in my wild card. And I'm between these 4 at the moment. My gut feel at the moment is to go for Dean Henderson in goal, Munoz and Mateta. Another upside to Mateta, by the way, is that he's apparently sharing penalty duties with Eze. But I don't think Eze has actually had a penalty yet this season. It's been all Mateta. Of course, Mateta could potentially still be technically injured as a result of that head injury he picked up against Millwall, but he's been seen in training with kind of a headband on this week. And I think with obviously the international break to recover as well, he'll be back firing for game week 30. So yeah, I think I'm considering Mateta, Munoz, and Henderson in. The next player I wanted to talk about is Erling Haaland. He is a tricky one because I think for game week 30 he's a great option. I also think for subsequent game weeks after that he is a good option too. I mean, we'll just go back to the fixtures. I keep getting the screen wrong. Sorry, guys. We'll just go back to the fixtures. And it's looking pretty good, to be fair. He's got that double win 33. He's got Crystal Palace before that. I know we've just spoken about Crystal Palace being decent defensively, but he could score in that game, right? Everton and Villa in a potential double game week, which is really enticing because obviously Liverpool do not have a double game week in 33. So you'll probably want to find an alternative captain to Salah in that week. It's just a question of I keep getting the screens wrong. Sorry, guys. It's just a question of, do you really want to bring Erling Haaland into your team? Or do I really want to bring him into my team? Spend all that money and not necessarily captain him on some weeks? Yeah, it's a really tough one. I think come game week 30, I'll be scared of not, or 33, I'll be scared of not owning him for that double. But we'll just go back to the fixtures. And I know we're thinking sort of 2 or 3 game weeks ahead of time, but I think it's really important too. And I'm just looking at those potential doubles and who you could captain instead. I mean, you could go for maybe someone, Watkins, probably not. I don't know. Bruno Fernandes against Wolves and Bournemouth. Saka could be back, to be fair, for game week 33. He's got Ipswich Palace. You could even captain a Bournemouth player, to be fair. Bowen against Southampton, Brighton. There are other alternatives, but for me, like the standout captain for that game week 33 is Haaland. And I said coming into game week 29 that I didn't do it and it didn't pay off. I always want to make sure I have the best captain every game week in FPL because that's in previous weeks at the start of the season where I really climbed up the ranks and got myself to the position I'm in at the moment, was by having the best captain every week. So I'm kind of going away for that philosophy if I don't pick Haaland. I keep getting the wrong screen, sorry. But that's the debate. It's whether to go for Erling Haaland. I think most people will probably be in a similar position. They might have him already or still considering bringing him in on their wild card. You're kind of not alone there. For me, I'm stuck in two minds really as to whether to go for him. And in terms of game week 30, I know there was a lot of talk going into game week 29 about people bringing in Haaland, obviously to captain for the blank in 29. And also, because he has Leicester, probably on paper the better fixture out of Salah and Haaland. Well, Salah with Everton, Haaland with Leicester. I'd say Haaland definitely has the better fixture. But it's just whether he is actually the better captain based on recent performances. And I just don't think he is. And the expected points back me up, although they are quite close. 8.4 expected points according to Fantasy Football Hub for Salah, 8.1 for Haaland, and then there's 0.1 expected points in it on FPL Review. And you could maybe imagine if you put both the expected minutes at sort of 90 and 91, they might be exactly identical. So they've got it close. But for me, at least for game week 30, it doesn't make sense. Probably to make a transfer at all. We just go back to how my team's looking. Yeah, the wrong screen. Sorry, guys. This is the worst video ever. Yeah, I just don't think I need to make a transfer for 30, first of all. There's no reason to bring Haaland in. And I also just don't have the moves to do it either. It's just a question of, do I pick him on my wildcard in 31? And I think there's enough to happen between now and 31 that locking in decisions probably isn't worthwhile because we've got an international break and then an FPL game week in between the two. And there's a lot of football to be played there and anything that can happen. So, yeah, for me, I think this is how I'm going to look going into game week 30 with kind of those thoughts there around my wildcard in 31. Salah captain, no transfers. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I thought I'd give you one more video going into the international break, just around like my initial plans for game week 30. You know, they're definitely not locked in. Of course, they can't be. You know, we've got an international break. A lot of these players away for their respective countries. Anything could happen. And also, just thinking, no one really said this before, but we got like someone like Chris Wood, for example, going to Australasia, potentially flying to New Zealand. Lots of players travelling quite a distance in my team, I suppose. Yeah, could be a question as to whether there could be some international break stuff going on there as well for game week 30. So I quite like the bench depth I've got there. Yeah. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like rating. Sorry for the hashed in / transitions. I'll work on that for my next video, but I really wanted to get one out for you guys, and I'm away for work after this, so I've got to quickly pack a bag and head off. So yeah, I thought I'd get a video out for you quickly. And yeah, let me know in the comments if there's any other changes you'd make to my team. I'd be interested to hear it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. Should be just there. Yeah, on your screen. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.